Chris Mannix of Sports Illustrated is back here. It's NBA Finals week, don't you know? Joining us here on the program. Good to see you, Chris.
What's happening, Rich?
Are you in the Boston area, the greater Boston area?
I am. I just touched down from Saudi Arabia, of all places, this past weekend for the heavyweight boxing stuff out there. And I'm back and in finals mode once again.
Okay. So I was going to ask you what the general sense of things are in that town, but you'd know the general sense of what's going on in Riyadh more than Boston, Massachusetts. That's basically what you're saying.
Well, I mean, it'll be about a week since the Celtics have played. And look, there's obviously excitement and certainly some cautious optimism right now about the status of Kristaps Porzingis, who is the big question mark, for the Celtics. It'll be about 5 weeks since the injury to Porzingis happened. And, he's back, he's practicing. And I think the Celtics are going to have at least one hard practice this week before they get into kind of the finals motions at practice, if you will. And if he's ready to go, I mean, that's a game changer for the Celtics because he's so instrumental in what they do on both ends.
So what's the best guess here on his readiness for Thursday night, Chris?
I think he's going to be fine. Like, it's an educated guess, and I think he's going to be ready to go back into that starting lineup and be the Kristaps Porzingis that he used to be. I mean, I don't know if he would have played in that Indiana series if it had gotten a little bit more challenging, if it had gone deeper. But, the Celtics privately have been optimistic about what they've seen from Porzingis over the last few days to a week. And, I think Joe Mazzulla said just the other day that he went through all the Celtics went through in practice. And look, that's a significant injury, no question. But 5 weeks is a good amount of time to have to rest an injury like that. So, I think they're going to get the very best of Porzingis in the start of the series.
So what's your opinion on the matchup? Like, how are the Celtics going to handle Luka here?
Well, look, you have to look back on how they played the Mavericks in the 2 games they played in the regular season, which went very well for Boston. They won one game by 9 points. They won another game by 28 points. I believe in the second game, Porzingis didn't play. The Celtics are equipped to be as good defensively as any team in the league is against Porzingis. I would imagine Jaylen Brown gets a lot of the early reps on Porzingis. Jaylen obviously has good size. He's a very good defensive player. And at some point, I'm sure you're going to see Jrue Holiday take a turn. We've seen Jrue Holiday defend anyone from point guards to power forwards during this season. So he will get some reps on Luka. And you've got Derek White there as well, who can also take turns. So the Celtics, they've got 2, all defensive team guys in Holiday and White, and they've got a very good, very big wing defender in Jaylen Brown. None of that guarantees are going to stop Luka Doncic, and I think Joe Mazzulla said that this week. You're not going to stop Luka or Kyrie Irving, but if they can make one or both of them inefficient, they're going to give themselves a great chance to win these games.
And I think we can all agree that anything non-basketball with Kyrie Irving got left in Brooklyn. I mean, pretty much ever since he got to Dallas, it's been, just only about basketball. Certainly when Kyrie talks or tweets or posts or has questions asked of him, it's been really just about hoops. And now, obviously, here comes the past to be part of the present. And how do you think his return to Boston is going to be handled?
Well, let's start with the player he is in Dallas, which you're right. He is a completely different player. And off the court, he is operating like a very different person. Now, some of that is kind of the natural maturity that you get when you're 32 years old and having gone through the things that Kyrie has gone through. And look, a lot of it was problems of his own making. But, when he hits his early 30s and realizes there aren't a lot of teams out there that were looking to sign him, I think that kind of gave him a little bit of a jolt, a reality check, if you will. I also think the situation in Dallas has been picture perfect for Kyrie. He gets to play for a coach in Jason Kidd, who, look, he grew up, a big fan of. I mean, Jason Kidd spent, his formative years in New Jersey. Kyrie Irving grew up in New Jersey, went to a lot of those Nets games. And, Jason's a Hall of Fame player. Kyrie is on that track. So there's a kind of a kindred spirit there in the head coach in Jason Kidd. And Jason told me, last week in Dallas, like one of the big reasons they're successful is because Kyrie has embraced that kind of secondary 1B type of option with the Mavericks. So it's worked out as well as it possibly could work out for Kyrie in Dallas. All that being said, imagine the most hostile environment you can think of, Rich. That's what it's going to be for game one for Kyrie Irving. Like, these Boston fans, even though it's worked out great for them over the last few years, they're in their second finals in 3 years. They've got one of the best young teams in basketball. None of them have forgotten about that 2018-19 season where they didn't live up to expectations. And virtually all of them blame Kyrie Irving for it. So it is going to be a very charged atmosphere in Boston. And look, Kyrie has not always reacted well to that. Right. You go back to the series he played, against the Celtics when he was with Brooklyn. There were some, situations with fans, interactions. All this was caught on social media. I think a recent game, like, he had that double middle finger they threw at the fans that were behind him. The Mavericks need a focused and locked in Kyrie Irving for this season. They need him to put up 25, 30 points per game, do it in an efficient way, play solid defense on the other end of the floor. And I think that is going to be one of their biggest challenges, because this Boston crowd is going to be amped up. And, they have not kind of forgotten all that happened in that year, and they blame it largely on Kyrie Irving.
NBA Finals are, throughout history, filled with players who are unsung, coming out of nowhere, the proverbial X factor. You got one on each team for this Finals?
It's Derek Lively for Dallas. I mean, look at how well he played this season. And Rich, championship teams are, the foundation is star talent, right? Star players. But where would the Mavericks be right now without Derek Lively? If they didn't get him in the back half of the lottery, they would not be in this position right now. Derek Lively has been a high-level defensive player, shot blocker, and he has been an incredible rim runner and dunker. Playing off of Luka Doncic. I think at one point, I forget the numbers, he was like 16 for 16, in field goal percentage at one point during that last series. So I think his ability to be that same guy in this type of environment, like, he's come out and said, like, it's a little overwhelming in a way, to be playing in a finals at 20 years old in your first year. He's got to be that same guy in this series against a team like Boston. And then with the Celtics, you're kind of looking for somebody on that bench outside of the top six to step up and play. Maybe it's Peyton Pritchard having a good couple of games. Maybe it's Sam Hauser shaking off the shooting slump he had, during that conference finals. One of those two guys who are going to flesh out the Celtics 8-man rotation, one of those two guys I think is going to have to play big.
Chris Mannix, Sports Illustrated, right here on the Rich Eisen Show, the crossover podcast as well. Over the weekend, while we were missing basketball, some news surfaced in regards to the final first-round draft choice for the Lakers that was part of the Anthony Davis trade, and how the Pelicans told the Lakers, we'll take it next year. So the Lakers had a 17th overall pick, Chris, that maybe a lot of folks didn't think they would have, that they're going to have at their disposal. Do you think that could be possibly used on Bronny James? What do you think?
No, I do not. I want to say this without degrading Bronny James, because the kid went through a lot last year. I mean, How many guys can overcome a cardiac incident to come back and play major college basketball? And I went to about a half a dozen of those USC games, Rich. And I think there's real potential in Bronny, especially defensively. He's got kind of that Davion Mitchell type of style where he can be a 6'1", 6'2" defensive menace. But right now, he is not a first-round pick. You are not going to find an NBA executive that will tell you that spending a first-round pick on him is a good idea. Now, a second-round pick is a different story altogether, because, look, let's be real. The vast majority of second-round picks do not pan out. A lot of them are overseas players that, in some cases, never come and play in the NBA. So if you are drafting in the middle of the second round, I think it's worth taking a flyer on Bronny James, because, again, I do think he has defensive potential. And if you can turn him into a point guard, which he's not now, but if you can turn him into a point guard, I think there's the possibility he could have a pretty productive NBA career. But as far as first-round picks go, no, I don't think he will be taken in the first round. I think the Lakers are more likely to use that first-round pick as part of a package to get another player, whether it's Trae Young in Atlanta, DeJounte Murray in Atlanta, somebody else that might be out there. I think that's the Lakers' priority right now, getting veteran, established talent to try to maximize the last couple of years of LeBron James.
So using that pick to get a bona fide veteran star player would be a better way to make sure LeBron signs that contract that's going to be sitting right there in front of him. I imagine extension for him to officially stay put as a Laker the rest of his playing days, more than drafting his son, is what you're saying?
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I believe so. Look, LeBron has kind of backtracked some on the I want to play with Bronny before the end of my career. He's basically said I want to play on the same floor with him in some subsequent interviews. So that's kind of, cleared the path for them. And look, I also think there's a pretty good possibility that Bronny is sitting there when the Lakers draft in the second round with, I believe, the 55th pick in that. So you can get the best of both worlds in these situations. You can use those first round draft picks, some of the movable contracts that they have to get the veteran player that can play right away. And you also have the ability to use a second round pick to get Bronny James and potentially, satisfy LeBron's desire to play with his son. So I don't think it's an either or, Rich, for the Lakers when it comes to drafting Bronny James.
Okay. And so last one for you on this front of the hoops front is that is the next coach of the Los Angeles Lakers going to be in Boston with a headset on Thursday night? Do you think, Chris?
Every indication that I have gotten, both from people around the Lakers and people that have frankly interviewed for that job, is that it's JJ Redick's job to lose. And look, there's a reason why not hiring JJ Redick right now is helpful to Redick. I don't know how it would work if he's the head coach of the Lakers working as a broadcaster during the NBA Finals. I reported this last week that, some of the coaches that the Lakers have brought in for interviews, some of the coaches it's been discussed about them joining a staff that is run by JJ Redick. Because if the Lakers hire JJ, they're going to need to have an experienced staff around him. They're going to need at least one, probably two former head coaches working with him to kind of show him the ropes of being an NBA head coach. So, yeah, I think JJ Redick right now is, I guess I call him an overwhelming favorite to land that Lakers job with a strong staff around him.
So let's finish up this conversation by me asking you the question that, based on your facial expression from 5 minutes ago, you thought I was going to ask.
I thought you were going there.
No, I was winding up, but not for that pitch. Now here we go. While we were waiting for NBA action to return, we learned that the Tyson-Jake Paul match is going to be postponed. What happened, Chris? What gives? What happened?
Well, the official word is that Mike Tyson has been dealing with an ulcer problem, and it flared up during a recent flight, and it's made him unable to train appropriately going into the scheduled fight against Jake Paul. Now, again, officially, they are saying they are going to reschedule this fight. I have been told that 2 dates are being explored in Arlington, Texas. I think there's a mid-October date that is available to them, and maybe even a mid-November date as well. This is something that the Cowboy Stadium folks have conveyed to Jake Paul's team. I will also say this, though. There is genuine concern from people that are also on the card. I mean, there are a number of other fights that are on the card about this specific card moving forward. I mean, again, Mike Tyson is 57 years old. He's almost 58 years old. They're saying it's a minor ulcer issue, but I don't think anything's minor at that stage kind of your life, especially when it comes to putting yourself in the proper shape to fight a professional boxing match. So right now the plan is to reschedule this fight for the fall of this year. But there is some concern amongst people involved with the fight that the Paul Tyson fight might not go through at all. And some of the fighters on this card might be looking for kind of lifeboats to appear on other cards moving forward.
Wow. How about them apples?
Wow. I know it's bitterly disappointing for you, Rich.
No, I know. No, I mean, obviously,
I think boxing fans everywhere
reliving even
right?
just for a round or two would have been great. But obviously,
Are we surprised here? I mean, are we shocked? He's 57. All right, things happen when you turn a certain age, especially when you're trying to kind of transform your body back into a professional fighter. I mean, look, Mike has always been in pretty good shape, regardless. But if he's going through the kind of training regimen that his team says he's going through, and believe me, I was following him around, for a few days in New York. And every time I tried to get some time with him, I would get these messages from members of his team saying, oh, he's in intensive training mode right now. If you believe his team, he was training like 16 hours a day, for this fight against Jake Paul. And when you're putting your body through stuff like that, things are going to happen. So look, I don't think it's completely off. It's certainly not out of the question. But again, there are people involved that are expressing skepticism that this specific fight is going to move forward.
Well, as somebody who's 21 days removed from turning the double nickel, I appreciate you referring to mid to late 50s as certain age. Thank you, Chris. That was very gentle of you and greatly appreciated. Thank you very much. In the minute I have left, do you want to tell us what happened in Saudi Arabia, since that's the legitimate boxing conversation?
Yeah, I mean, I think we saw the end of Deontay Wilder, at least as a professional boxer. That's 2 losses in a row. This one, a bad knockout to Zhilei Zhang. And I wrote about this today on SI.com. Like, Deontay Wilder kind of leaves behind a complicated legacy because he helped reinvigorate heavyweight boxing in the United States. And held a world championship for 5 years, was a former bronze medalist in the Olympics. But there's always going to be the questions about what Deontay Wilder left on the table. And would he have succeeded if he faced the very best in the prime of his career? Most of his prime was spent facing guys who were heavy underdogs. And when he went up against guys that were considered his peers, most of the time he didn't win. He had the draw against Tyson Fury, then back-to-back losses. He was completely blanked by Joseph Parker back in December, and now he was knocked out by a 41-year-old Zhilei Zhang. So, look, I'm happy for Deontay in the sense that he made a pile of money and is going to get to go back to Alabama and enjoy his life. But, there's always going to be the what ifs with him. What would have happened if he faced Vladimir Klitschko? What would have happened if he faced David Haye? What would have happened if he had faced the very best of the best after he won his title in 2015? What would have happened if he faced Anthony Joshua when he was supposed to face him, or, offered a lot of money to face him back in 2019? These are some of the great what ifs in recent heavyweight boxing memory.
You're the man, Chris. Thanks for the time. Get some rest. Get back on the time zone. Enjoy the tip-off to the NBA Finals, and look for my call for next week. Thanks again, Chris.
You got it, Rich.
You're the best. At SI Chris Mannix, right here on The Rich Eisen Show. Catch The Rich Eisen Show every single day on the Roku channel, 12 to 3 Eastern, for free.